Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Saturday, May 16th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith back in the house on the live show for the first time in a while. Back home, of course, in Minnesota a couple of days ago. We had no show yesterday, obviously, with no games, but we're back today, and we're excited about Game 6, Buffalo Sabres, Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, it's going to be popping. The atmosphere at the Bell Center tonight. Excited to see just what the crowd noise is like once again when they take the ice for the opening face-off. But excited about Game 6, Buffalo-Montreal. We'll tee that up. Alex, the first time, of course, back on the Daily Show for you in a little bit.
Yeah.
The trip, the overall thoughts, being back home and getting back to Minnesota. How was the Mother's Day week for you?
Yeah, it was nice. It was a nice trip at home. Like, I did get a little sick. That's why it was a couple of days in between. I got sick, and then we had some weather issues, so I had to make some changes, and that's why I was a couple of days late getting back in. But overall, just a fantastic time with Mom. And as everybody's mentioned, everybody was happy with Mom with hitting her Mother's Day bargain bin, of course, with Kirby Dachshund in the Montreal game in that series. And that's she picked that, just like last year with Nino Niederreiter in Winnipeg. And we cashed at a few books back home. We had that with FanDuel, MGM. So it was a really nice Mother's Day hitting that prop for sure, but just a good time overall. And of course, watching the hockey as well, getting to see Minnesota Wild eliminated. That was always fantastic. And now here we are. We got 3 teams going to the conference final, and we could possibly see the 4th one tonight.
Yeah, we definitely could. No question about that. Yeah, and of course, we had no show today. So, yes, I did have time to get a haircut yesterday, as you can tell. So there you go. Appreciate the kind words with that. Yeah, lost the bet with the lawnmower, Jonathan. Well said with with that. But, yeah, it's amazing how all of a sudden when you don't have the Ice Guys show to do, you got stuff to – you can get some things done.
Right, yeah.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, we do have, unfortunately, lives to lead and errands to run like any other human being on the face of planet Earth. So it's nice to be able to do that during the day for a change and not have to rush, late in the afternoon, early in the evening to do some of this shit. But nevertheless, on we go to Saturday. We're going to tie up a few loose ends because we haven't been on since obviously Thursday. Was our last daily show. We had the Betcast. We thank everyone on Thursday night for joining us on that. We will have a Patreon exclusive live Betcast. We will have one Betcast this week during the conference finals. A date to be determined. We'll just wait to see when the East final is going to start, and we'll go from there. It's probably going to be an East final game this week and a West final game next week. That's probably what we'll end up doing as far as the Betcast. We'll do an East final game this week for our Patreon members, and then we'll do a West final game next week for our Patreon members as we get later into the series. But just hats off to the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, Thursday night, they finished off the Anaheim Ducks in 6 games. Bad call on my part with Anaheim, but I did back them, because they had been undefeated off a loss. I don't know what to say. Was Anaheim just not ready for the moment? I think there's a bit of that. Their first time facing elimination, that young group kind of looked like it. Of course, when you're at home and you're facing elimination and you're a young team, the last thing you want to do is give up a highlight reel goal 1 minute into the hockey game. And that's exactly what ended up happening. That Mitch Marner goal was absolutely spectacular. Filthy, tremendous stuff from him on the breakaway. Ends up between the legs, almost like on an angle, and through his legs, puts it past Dostal. Was one of the great goals of the playoffs for sure. I mean, sure everyone's seen it by now. And then he sets up Brett Howden, who scores again for the Vegas Golden Knights on the shorthanded goal to give them that early 2-0 lead. And it just felt at that time it wasn't going to be Anaheim's night, battling uphill, swimming upstream all night. And I don't know what to say. Is it more, is Anaheim just not ready in that moment? Or do you just give Vegas a hell of a lot of credit? No Mark Stone, without Braden McNabb, too, one of their best defensemen in terms of shutdown play and in his own end, and obviously one of their best penalty killers in Anaheim power play, except for the Granlund goal. Didn't really do much in that game. So give Vegas credit. I thought they played outstanding, for being shorthanded a little bit. An Anaheim team that hadn't lost 2 in a row. playing at home where they also had played very well. I think you got to give the Golden Knights just a ton of credit for playing that well and closing out that series on the road in Game 6, just like they did, obviously, against Utah in Game 6. And Carter Hart was a big story, too. He was absolutely tremendous in Game 6. A bounce back after he had a couple of games where he was a little bit shaky earlier in the series. Game 4 comes to mind, but boy, he was excellent in Game 6, allowing Vegas to finish off the series. And obviously, the big story coming out of that game was for the Vegas Golden Knights that John Tortorella didn't talk to the media. They basically closed the dressing room off to the media. And obviously, they only had the two players that spoke post-game. It was Mitch Marner and one of the other Golden Knights, and nobody else was allowed to. They didn't allow the media to talk to anyone else with the Vegas Golden Knights, and John Tortorella was not made available. I think people that are trying to say that John Tortorella orchestrated this, that's a bunch of nonsense. I really don't think John Tortorella orchestrated this. Yeah, I think he had obviously played along with it, but I think this is coming from upstairs, this decision to be this belligerent to the media here. I think this is more of a Kelly McCrimmon, McPhee front office move, more so than John Tortorella, just maybe the whole team, not the front office and the coach both sharing the decision to say, hey, and apparently it was because they were not just mad. They were absolutely livid with the decision to suspend Braden McNabb for one game. That's what this apparently all stems from. Protesting the league's decision to suspend Braden McNabb for one game. And I don't agree with the suspension either. I think it was excessive to give him one game for that hit on Paling. It was late, but I've seen a lot worse than that, and they gave him one game. I think it was very excessive to give him a one-game suspension. I agree with them being mad about it. I don't agree with the way they handled it, though. You don't handle it that way. You've got media obligations. Everybody knows that, especially at this time of year, the most important time of the year. That's why the NHL is livid, too. It's one thing to pull a stunt like this on October 22nd when Vegas is playing, Vancouver, one of the dregs of the league. That's one thing to do it then. This is a Stanley Cup playoff series. This is an elimination game in a Stanley Cup playoff second round series. And the NHL probably weighs media obligations even more at this stage of the season than during the regular season. So that's why they came down hard on Vegas. Not just the $100K fine to John Tortorella, but second round draft pick getting taken away from the Vegas Golden Knights. And so severe, strict punishment from the NHL. And then Vegas with the statement on their Twitter right after that, no comment. Almost like, we got their backup over that's definitely a, kind of a, FU to the decision with that comment. No further comment from Vegas. They've really turned into the villain in the NHL, Vegas, to a lot of people's eyes. They really have. And for a lot of reasons. They've been winning a lot. They've been trying to circumvent the cap and the Mark Stone, years ago. They've been trying to do that nonsense to circumvent the cap, although they've been within their rights to do it because they can get away with it. They've obviously had this incident now that took place last night that's got a lot of people upset, especially media members. People are sick of Vegas at this point. Remember, everyone was in love with Vegas the first year, how what a beautiful team they had, a beautiful story, and all the misfits that they picked off in the expansion draft, formulated a team, and ended up going to the Cup final against Washington in the first year. And then that's another thing, too. Oh, yeah, you bring in a goalie that was connected to potential, obviously it wasn't a rape, but it was still a very, grisly situation, Carter Hart with the girl there, with the World Junior team all those years ago. And people are pissed that Vegas hired him or signed him, Carter Hart. I'm always a man of second chances. And if he doesn't screw up again, like if Carter Hart does not screw up for another time in his life with any personal conduct, I think we'd get to the point where we can say, you know what? You put yourself in a bad spot, Carter Hart. That was bad judgment. That was irresponsible. That was what you did years ago with the girl in the World Junior team years ago. But, as long as you don't make another mistake down that pathway in the future, I think at that point we can say, you know what, you've changed. And I'm leaving the door open. That's why I'm not going too crazy with them bringing on Carter Hart. I'm giving him a chance to make amends for what he's done. Second chance. I'm a second chance guy. But I know some people don't feel that way. Some people say he shouldn't have gotten a second chance and hate Vegas's guts and hate Carter Hart's guts. So that's another reason people think Vegas is the villain right now, Alex. So it makes for an interesting storyline as they get set to play Colorado in the West Final starting Wednesday.
The famous phrase, they hate us because they ain't us. And everybody that I've seen and heard talk about Vegas say they hate Vegas. You know how many fans here in Minnesota before last year's playoff series I've heard in bars and restaurants out in public when talking about hockey said they hate the Vegas Golden Knights. They don't have enough
Our own Terry
ice.
Edelman says the
Eh,
same shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah, and it's always fan bases who haven't done shit, who haven't won shit that I've heard talking shit about the Vegas Golden Knights because it's a team that is going to their fifth conference final in the last 9 years. It's a team, like you said, that they've utilized the rules that were in front of them when they had the LTIR loophole. They used it to perfection. And like I said, here they are with some unsavory characters potentially that some people don't like playing and actually playing well for this team. I know there's a whole lot of people who were wishing for the demise and downfall of Carter Hart, and here's Carter Hart starting in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals coming up this week.
You
So
can hate Carter Hart's guts, Alex. He's a freaking good goalie when he's on his game.
yeah,
He is a very good goalie when he's on his game, and we're finding that out.
there's a reason why Philly was all over him early in his career and trying to make him the heir apparent with a franchise that we've been talking about for the last 2 decades not having a number one goaltender. There was a reason that there was that kind of hype and hoopla around him because he can be a quality goaltender. But like you said, this is just a team where, and like you said, they've embraced the role. And I like that personally. When you're a team that's hated, I wish the Blackhawks did this more. Embrace the hatred. Don't try to be America's team. Don't try to be Canada's team because at the end of the day, they're still going to turn on you when you start losing. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys. Be the villain. Be the like the Bronx Bombers. Okay, people hated them all throughout the '90s. All they did was win. And sometimes you have to take that approach and say fuck them, fuck everybody else. We know what we can do in our organization. We trust our front office. We trust our scouting. We trust our players and personnel, and we move forward with that. So I don't have that kind of hatred for Vegas like a lot of people. I've talked to people, like I said, over the years, and I mean seriously. You ask them they're the team they hate. They don't say Chicago. They don't say Dallas. They don't say Colorado up here. There's a whole lot of people say fuck the Vegas Golden Knights. And I just always thought that was just comical because they're an upstart team, and they're doing things the right way early, and just mad that your team's struggling and been around for ages and can't figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's all the people that there's some Toronto Maple Leaf fans I know that hate Vegas. Well, what's your franchise done? Since 1967, Squadouche. That's what nothing.
Yeah,
Pretty much as far as that. So, like I said, it's mostly you're right. For the loser fan bases, the losing teams, fan bases of losing teams for a very long time that are upset with all the success that Vegas has had. And yeah, if they pushed the edge, gone to the edge of the cliff with bending the rules, yeah, absolutely. But you do it to win. And that's the one thing. One thing that I truly do respect this about Vegas. They will do whatever it takes to win. They will do whatever it takes to build the most competitive, strongest, deepest, best roster they can every single year. And they don't care how the hell they do it. They don't care one bit. If it gives us the best team possible to compete for a Stanley Cup, we don't care how we've got to do it. We're going to do it. That I admire that actually.
yeah.
About McCrimmon, McPhee, Foley, the owner, and everyone there with Vegas.
By any means necessary.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, no doubt. No, that's a good point, Jax. They didn't break any rules. No, they just took advantage of a loophole. That's all those years with the cap stuff. With just putting someone on LTIR and being able to add at the trade deadline because that money now was all freed up.
And
They
listen,
took advantage of something they could do. Yep.
and throughout that whole time, we saw Pittsburgh do it. We saw the Blackhawks do it. We saw Tampa Bay do it. None of them caught the same kind of flack that Vegas caught for doing it.
There's some truth to that. Yep. And Vegas got all the flack for it. So, but anyway, Vegas is the ones laughing now because they're off to yet again another Western Conference final. I will get into that series, obviously, when it comes up on Wednesday. One thing I do want to say about, actually, I'll save it for a minute. I do want to say something, Alex, because they deserve it. I do want to say something about Anaheim. Outstanding season, tremendous year, nothing to be ashamed of. When you look, and then you start to look at the injury report, there were more people banged up for Anaheim than I thought. going down the stretch of that Vegas series. But Anaheim, a wonderful season, a huge, huge step forward based on where they've been the last few years, out of the playoffs. Issues with, the players jiving with the previous coach, Greg Cronin. You bring in Joel Quenneville, and just look at the strides. I mean, just look at the strides when you bring in one of the most winningest head coaches of all time, multiple Stanley Cup champion head coach, and look at the improvements. Look at the improvements all the young players made under Joel Quenneville this year. Look at the improvement they made defensively this year. Now, they still have room for improvement defensively, but they were much worse of a defensive team last year, 2 years ago. Dostal had the one guy I think that kind of had an up and down playoff was Dostal, but I still think when you look at it long term, he's going to be a good goalie. I still think that. There's lots of room for improvement still for him. Keep in mind, this is a lot of games. He's not used to playing this many games in a long season. He played at the Olympics too. I think he kind of looked a little worn down, fatigued a little bit later in that Vegas series. So I think that plays a role in it. But you think of all this young talent that they've got up front, and there's more coming too. Like, there's actually more coming in the pipeline for Anaheim. They've got a bunch of prospects that are going to be knocking on the door to join what's already there, to join Mason McTavish and Cutter Gauthier and Leo Carlson and our guy Beckett Seneca. There's still a bunch they're going to be joining this team. Jackson Lacombe on the back end, Pavel Minchikov. I think as time goes on, a guy like Olin Zellweger is going to get more and more ice time on this team. Like, the future is extremely bright for the Anaheim Ducks. And the hope now is going into next year, Alex, more of a target on your back now next season for the Anaheim Ducks, for a team that obviously got to the second round this year, that they don't take that step back. But I don't know if I see that. I see a team where the best might be yet to come.
Absolutely. And I said this before the playoffs. I said this before Anaheim went on that slump kind of post-Olympic break. But I said it again during that first round run for Anaheim. This team has that feel of the Blackhawks circa 08, 09, 2010. And we saw that team make a good run in the playoffs. They got bounced out by the best team in the league that year, who were the Red Wings, in that Western Conference final. That next year, they were able to get everything ready, everything loaded, and they went on and won a Stanley Cup. And that would not shock me one bit. It probably will be a future that I have once this season's over, that I might have a little bit of Anaheim to win the West, Anaheim to win the Cup next year, because I think they can learn from what they did last year. They're just a couple pieces away from certainly being the best team in that Pacific Division. Okay, they've already done that. But they were a couple of games here and there from winning the Pacific this year alone. So certainly we'll be looking toward backing Anaheim again next year.
And maybe next year, Anaheim will be like Montreal this year. Remember, Montreal just made the playoffs for the first time last year with that young group, lost in the first round to Washington. You got to lose before you learn how to win. And now this year, we're talking about Montreal one win away from being in the Eastern Conference final. And maybe Anaheim's going to be that team to take that next step next year. And they've certainly got the coach to do it, obviously, in Joel Quenneville. But no question, the future's very bright for the Anaheim Ducks, without a doubt. And the last thing I will say before we get to tonight's game, Game 6, Buffalo-Montreal, is that just in case this number moves a bit, I'm not going to save it for Wednesday when we talk about that Vegas-Colorado Western Conference final and Game 1 specifically, but I've already bet the over by Fecta in Game 1 of Vegas-Colorado. Over 1.5 first period and over 6 around I think it's minus 115 or minus 120 full game. But I already bet those yesterday when I saw numbers for the first time for Game 1 on Wednesday night. It's just your classic long layoff, sloppy game, defensive mistakes, higher scoring type of game that I often go to. Vegas will have been off 6 days, exactly 1 full week, 7 days off for Colorado going into that game. So you expect certainly, sloppy out of the gate. And I don't know if it's going to be 9-6 like Game 1 with Minnesota, Colorado necessarily. But like I said, I do think that first game, we could have that kind of game where there's a few more miscues with both teams entering it not only fresh, but off a long layoff. We'll get into that series, obviously, on Wednesday. All right, Game 6 tonight, Bell Center. The atmosphere is going to be off the chart. I'm sure of it. Montreal minus 170, home favorites, 6 the total. Montreal up 3-2 in the series. I'm hearing rumblings that the torchbearer, which has become a theme during the Montreal Canadiens home games, they have a Montreal Canadiens player of the past that walks into the main part of the Bell Center there with the torch. And we've already seen Guy Carbonneau do it. We've seen Chris Nyland do it. We've seen Kirk Muller do it. We've seen a bunch of former Habs bring that torch. I'm hearing rumblings that someone big time tonight for Game 6 with a chance to clinch the series. I've heard it could be Larry Robinson. I don't know if it will be Larry Robinson, but I heard it Big Bird, but it could be him. I heard it could be Madame Beliveau, the wife of the late Jean Beliveau, who's 94 years old. I don't know if this is true or not, but she attends most Montreal Canadiens home games still at the Bell Center. And she, especially on the Sportsnet broadcasts in Canada, they usually get a camera shot of her sitting in the crowd. So Madame Beliveau, Mrs. Beliveau at 94, bringing the torch. I mean, the place would go bonkers. The roof would I think the roof could actually fucking just blow right off the Bell Center if it's Mrs. Beliveau at 94 years old carrying that torch in. Carey Price, that would be, Carey Price. That's a good one. That one hasn't been mentioned, but that would be a good one. That would get a big pop too from the Bell Center crowd. Carey Price as well. But anyway, those are 3 good ones. We'll see if we're right with any of them. Is it Larry Robinson? Is it Mrs. Beliveau? Or is it Carey Price? Those are 3 pretty good ones, though. But it'll be someone for Game 6 tonight. Buffalo, very interesting tact that they're taking here going into Game 6. They didn't skate yesterday. No practice. Lindy Ruff said, we don't need to practice. Just go out and play. Even after a bad game, a bad defensive game. Probably wasn't a great game from UPL either. And I found it very interesting in that loss to the Montreal Canadiens in Game 5 that UPL kind of poked some or threw some shade at his own defense in front of him. And I'm like, well, hold on now, man. You're culpable too. You didn't exactly have a spectacular game. There's that goal that Jake Evans scored on the tap-in. You got to corral that puck. You can't let that puck get past you and trickle behind you like that. You got to step up too and be a little bit better. You can't just throw your team trying to defend in front of you under the bus. You got to take a little responsibility for how many goals you gave up there in Game 5 the other night. And it was just very interesting to see. He had said he admired Montreal's defense too. Not only did he say, he did say, I've got to be better, but he said, we've got to be better, much better defensively. And it's almost like he basically was saying that, almost like he put more of the blame on the D rather than him for what happened in Game 5. And then he said, I admired Montreal's defense. Oh, what? So you admired Montreal's defense and the way they played in game? That's what he said post-game. So people are wondering if there's maybe a little bit of friction going on with UPL and the rest of the team because of some of the stuff he said post-game in Game 5. So I don't think he's starting anyway after a game like that. I think it's back to Alex Lyon. And, of course, Alex Lyon finished the game in the third period of Game 5. And I expect Alex Lyon to be the starter here tonight for the Buffalo Sabres. But Buffalo didn't practice yesterday or today. They're not even doing a morning skate today. So it's just you go right from Thursday. You basically don't take the ice at all between Thursday night's Game 5 loss and tonight. And you just go out there and play. So it'll be interesting to see if that works for the Buffalo Sabres and brings them better results. They have been a very good road team in these playoffs. They've already won a road game here at the Bell Center. They went 1-1 in the Game 3, Game 4 road games here at the Bell Center. Meanwhile, Montreal, now remember, for those of you that think this series might be over tonight, Montreal, off a loss, they've been tremendous, 5-0. But off a win, we haven't always seen Montreal put that second straight win on the board. And in Game 6 against Tampa in the first round, they missed an opportunity to close the series at home and finish off the series at home, losing in overtime to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I don't think it's a fait accompli that the Montreal Canadiens are going to win tonight. But I think the more you watch this series, and we'll see if Alex agrees in a minute, that Montreal just looks like they've won more periods. Like if you were to base this series on, forget 3-2 Montreal, what's the score as far as periods won? as far as territorial play, not just goals on the scoreboard, but territorial play. I think there's no doubt Montreal has won more periods in this series so far through 5 games. And I think we're seeing them, their portions of dominance in this series have been greater than the Sabres' portions of dominance so far in this series in my mind. And if you actually look back to game 4, are we even playing a game 6 in this series if not for the Tage Thompson goal from center ice that banked off the boards, banked off Dobish, and in? That goal completely changed the complexion of game 4, and Montreal was leading game 4 at that point. So, I just think Montreal's carried the play more. Marty St. Louis and a lot of the players have brought up that they didn't finish off Tampa Bay at home in game 6 when they had the chance, saying we don't want to let that happen again. Even though we have confidence we could go to Buffalo Monday night and win a game 7, we don't want that. We want to end it tonight. We don't want to tempt fate and try to go to game 7 again. So it's a fascinating move. I don't know as of yet what we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see any changes for Montreal based on, a winning combination. Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, Newhook, Evans, Demidov. And how about Ivan Demidov finally getting on the board for Montreal in game 5? Long overdue. You knew it was going to happen at some point with all the chances he was getting, and he finally scored in game 5. Watch out. Maybe he's going to be like Caulfield. When Caulfield finally scored his first playoff goal, well, now he scored in 3 straight games, Cole Caulfield. So maybe that happens for Ivan Demidov. Now that the lid is off the jar, the floodgates are going to open here for him a little bit. I don't expect any changes on the blue line either. For Buffalo, I think they might make some tweaks here and there. It was Luke Schenn, Connor Timmins. Maybe one of those guys come out and Logan Stanley goes back in. He'd probably be the guy to go back in. I keep saying Zach Metsa. I don't think they're playing Zach Metsa unless there's a bunch of injuries. So it's probably going to be Stanley in for somebody on the blue line if they decide to make a change. The way I'm going to go about it here is I don't have faith in Buffalo for this game tonight, for the full game. I don't. I mean, I just think the more this series has gone on, Montreal has kind of asserted themselves. Now, there is that question of, Montreal's got to show that they can put 2 wins together. I don't think that I don't disagree with that, because off a win, they haven't been like what they've been off a loss, this Canadiens team. But like I said, Montreal has won more periods, and I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game. I do expect a strong start from Buffalo. That's the one thing we've gotten from Buffalo in the 2 games in Montreal. We've seen good starts from them. They scored the first goal, now lucky bounce off the boards for Tage Thompson, but they scored the first goal, went up 1-0 in game 3 in Montreal. They did give up the first goal in game 4, but they answered pretty quickly after that and ended up tying that game 1-1. The bottom line is we've seen Buffalo get on the board in the opening 20 minutes, both games in Montreal in this series. And minus 136 currently at FanDuel for Buffalo to score in the first period. I like that. Now, I'm not taking Buffalo first goal first period. I'm not doing that tonight because I worry Montreal will come out with great energy from that crowd and urgency to finish the series tonight if they can. So it could be one of these deals where Montreal goes up 1-0 and then Buffalo later in the first period ties the game. I wouldn't be totally shocked to see that happen here in this one because, I beg your pardon, Buffalo did score the first goal of game 4 as well. So maybe Buffalo first goal first period then, but I like Buffalo just to score a goal in the first period, though, more than the first goal. So minus 136 for Buffalo goal in the first period. I'm on the over by factor again. You shouldn't be surprised by that. Over 1.5 first period, over 6 full game. I mean, we've had all but one game go over in the full game in this series, go over the full game. And I think every game in this series has actually cashed the first period over. I think the first period over is 5-0 in this series. Yeah, it is. Perfect 5-0. So first period over, full game over. We've got a little third period over, empty net props as usual, which you can find at BetMGM. Empty net goal as well, specifically Montreal empty net goal. And I'm on that Montreal full game team total, which is a very good price here, over 3.5 at a really nice plus price for this elimination game. Because keep in mind, too, this is going to hit. If Montreal wins, I'm sure of it, this team total is going to hit. Because in each of their wins in this series, Montreal has scored at least 4 goals. They've gone over their team total. So when Montreal wins, they go over their team total. And their team total here is 3.5, plus 112 at Pinnacle, plus 115 at Caesars, minus 105 at a couple other places. But most books still have plus money for Montreal team total over 3.5 here tonight. So I like that. So it's Buffalo to score in the first, Montreal team total over 3.5, over by Fecta, and the empty net props, third period over. There you go. And a bunch of props, which I'll get to in a moment as well. Alex, what do you think here for Game 6, Buffalo, Montreal?
Yeah, we were on together on the betcast, the Patreon betcast for the third period, watching Buffalo Montreal, and we said that just the spirit of the Sabres at home. It just seemed everything seemed deflated. The crowd seemed deflated, but that team seemed deflated. Even though they were still some scrums and some fights and different things to kind of show, at least to Montreal in the moment, that hey, we're not going to go away. It just doesn't seem like this is going to be a spot where Buffalo can really rally back and get a win here. I think this is going to be all halves. Like I said, from the moment you have the torch lighting to the opening faceoff, I think that energy is just going to carry that team to victory here. So I'm on Habs. Parlay with the over 5.5. I got that plus 154 over at MGM. I'm on first period over 1.5 minus 124, and both teams to score plus 176. Of course, I like the empty net goal spots. Empty net goal, yes, plus 105. Habs to score empty net goal plus 195. Both of those over at BetMGM. And for my bargain bin, we'll talk about it a little bit later. You guys probably know who it is. It's a little Montreal player who likes to shine on the night that this game is being played tonight.
All right, one correction to make about it is 5-0 first period over in this series. Every game has gone over in the first period. I said all but one game has gone over in this series for the full game over. What a correction of that is all but one game in this series has had at least 6 goals. Some of those games have been pushes because the total's been 6. If you got so with some of those games you could have gotten 5.5 too, which would have hit. But the point is all but one game has gotten to 6 goals. So it's and with the total being 6, that is why I'm still on that here tonight as well. All right, as far as props, you mentioned it. Obviously, Cole Caulfield, Mr. Saturday Night. And by the way, this is Montreal's first Saturday playoff game, first Saturday game of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So this is our first chance to see maybe some Cole Caulfield magic here. On a Saturday night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's got 21 goals in 23 games on Saturdays this season for the Montreal Canadiens. So not only do I like the goal prop, I'm going to sprinkle on the 2 goals and hat-trick props pregame for Cole Caulfield tonight. Not to mention, this is the right time to be playing a Saturday night game for him because he's finally starting to heat up. He couldn't buy a goal against Tampa Bay early in this series. He struggled to find the back of the net. And now all of a sudden, goals in 3 straight games. He scored in Game 3, Game 4, and in Game 5 of this series. So Cole Caulfield, absolutely, and over shots on goal, and maybe go 4 or 5 shots on goal. Maybe ladder it a little bit. I think he's going to shoot the puck quite a bit tonight. Over 2.5 is pretty juicy. I'm seeing minus 160 or 70. So you may have to take a shot with some 4 shots, 5 shots, if you want to get plus money on that. So keep that in mind. And yes, as Jonathan points out, and we'll have a chart, I'm going to upload it after the show with Cole Caulfield's numbers on Saturdays, courtesy of Jonathan Davis for our Patreon members on the Patreon page. Caulfield had a 2-goal game against Buffalo on Saturday, January 31st. So there you go. He has definitely been able to score multiple goals against Buffalo already this season. Yes, I like Ivan Demidov. Goal prop, it's automatic when there's a very talented player that's been through the ringer, hasn't scored in a while, finally gets on the board, and often you see the floodgates open. So yes, Ivan Demidov for goal prop for sure for Montreal tonight. I'm going to take one more shot with the Newhook props. He had no shots on goal last game. I'm going to keep these a little smaller, but Newhook over shots, goal and assist for Newhook as well. But I think this could be a night where Caulfield, Demidov, Suzuki, maybe some of the big guns get going. The next guy that's due to get going too for Montreal, it's Slafkovsky. Remember how red hot he was at the beginning of the Tampa Bay series? He had a hat trick for crying out loud, I believe, in Game 1 of that series. And he's been super quiet, for pretty much since that time. He's had chances. It's just not been going in for him. He's the next tab. If he wakes up tonight, Uri Slavkovsky, and gets his offense going here in Game 6, look out next round if you're Carolina, because then you'd have Demidov off the schneid, Caulfield's off the schneid now, and you'd have Slavkovsky in that as well. So I keep an eye on him. If you see him skating well early in the game, you could always jump in live too with a goal prop for him. And then and don't be scared about Bolduc and Texier and some of the depth guys, even just to sprinkle on them to get a point, because they've been chipping in for Montreal, especially Bolduc and Texier for them. And then for Buffalo, I think Rasmus Dahlin, goal, assist, point. No, the point prop's too expensive. So goal, assist, shots on goal. He's still leading the Buffalo Sabres in shot attempts here in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Rasmus Dahlin. So Dahlin over shots on goal, like I said, still something to work with here. Bo Byram's gone over 1.5 shots on goal, and it's plus money. He's gone over that in 3 straight games for Buffalo. That could be worth a look. It's plus money over 1.5 for Bo Byram as far as shots on goal going into this one tonight. Texier and Ivan Demidov have gone over 1.5 shots 2 straight games. Their prices are reasonable as well. Jack Quinn's gone over 2.5 shots in back-to-back games as well. And then when it comes to point props, Newhook has a point in 4 straight games. Even though he didn't have a shot on goal in Game 5, he did have an assist. Keep that in mind, and that makes it 4 straight games with a point for Alex Newhook. Jake Evans has points in 4 straight games for the Montreal Canadiens. Nobody better than Josh Doan as far as point-scoring streaks in this series. Josh Doan for Buffalo, 6 games in a row with a point, and when it comes to Buffalo props, Josh Doan's been it for me. Josh Doan goal, assist, point. We're probably going to run those back. Same with Zach Benson. Those two have been outstanding. I really wonder where Buffalo would be without Zach Benson and Josh Doan. That's how good they've been. They've been better than Tuck and Zucker and Tage Thompson and a lot of the bigger name players and the veterans on this team. Benson and Doan have been, every shift they're working their ass off. Every single shift. So, Benson and Doan props once again here for me tonight. Makes a lot of sense for sure. I'm trying to see what else. Yeah, and Doan scored last game too. Keep that in mind. This feels like maybe Josh Anderson too, who scored last game. I find in these moments he steps up to the plate. And yes, Consta. We have to go back to the well with Hellenus wheels. Consta Hellenus for the Buffalo Sabres. Absolutely. Look, I'm just going straight to the goal prop for Consta Hellenus. Plus 700. Once again, looks to be the price for that. He could have scored 2 goals in Game 4 here in Montreal. He got robbed by Dobish once, and then he hit the post on another. And, of course, he scored one of Buffalo's goals in Game 5. He has been very good in the 2 games since Lindy Ruff put him in the lineup. So Consta Hellenus, plus 650, looks like the best price for his goal prop. Got to keep going to it. He's been very good in these 2 games, and he's looked dangerous when he's been on the ice. So those are the props I'm looking at here when it comes to Buffalo, Montreal. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. A couple things about the show and the scheduling before we run the ads and bargain bin special and best bet. If this series goes to Game 7 Monday night, our next show will be Monday. Obviously, no show tomorrow on Sunday because there's no games. But if this series goes to Game 7 in Buffalo, we'll be on with you Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern. If Montreal wraps it up tonight, then we'll see you Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for our next show, which will obviously be Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final that night, Montreal, Carolina. So that's the show scheduling, basically. We won't have a show tomorrow on Sunday. We will have one Monday if there's a Game 7 with Montreal, Buffalo. And if there is not a Game 7 and Montreal finishes it off tonight, we'll be back Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we'll get you ready for the conference finals, especially Game 1 in the East, which will be starting that night. All right, WizardSportsPicks.com. Check out all the great handicappers on the website, NHL, Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs, MLB, and more. Check it out, WizardSportsPicks.com. Long-term subscriptions, daily premium picks available. Still number 1 in the NHL. I'm hoping to hang on to that ranking for the end of the season. NBA profitable as well. So check that out, wizardsportspicks.com. And, of course, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts, daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. I got a question asked from one of our Patreon members. When will you be starting posting picks in the other sports when hockey starts to wind down? And I responded and said, we'll start that June 1st on non-NHL days. So if there's no Stanley Cup playoff game any day in June, I'll post some picks that I've got going in some of the other sports for our Patreon members. We'll get that going on June the 1st. So good stuff indeed. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. Again, get on board. Your membership goes a long way to supporting the show, keeping it going long term. Get on board at patreon.com/Ice Guys.
And also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. You got 4 days to save 20% off everything in the store. Hit the redeem button at the homepage, add your items to the cart, and 20% will be taken off at checkout. So it's a great time to stock up and get some items and support the Ice Guys store. That's over at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yeah, I will have some hot World Cup soccer stuff. I will be betting World Cup. Now, I'm not handicapping it. It's all based on intel from other people. You know, I rely on other people, other sources for that, but I will have some picks for that as well. All right, bargain bin special of the night. Best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
All right, bargain bin special of the night for Game 6, Eastern Conference second round series, Sabres Habs. I'm going to give you two, one from each team. I'm running it back with Consta, man. Hellenus wheels. Consta Hellenus plus 650 for the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to go back to the well there for him with bargain bin special of the night. And then on the Montreal side of the equation, I mentioned him earlier. He's a guy that I think in these elimination games, he could make an impact. Scored last game. Josh Anderson for Montreal, plus 550. So there you go. Consta Hellenus plus 650 Buffalo. Josh Anderson plus 550 Montreal for bargain bin special of the night. Alex, bargain bin special of the night.
Oh, I hope you guys can hear me because I'm having headset issues. But if not, it's Cole Caulfield, two goals plus 850, 3 goals at 45-1. Both of those prices are available at FanDuel. I think we see a huge night from Cole Caulfield, Mr. Saturday Night, to wrap it up and send the Montreal Canadiens to the Eastern Conference Final.
Good stuff. All right. Best bets for this Game 6. Alex, what do you got for best bet?
Let's go with that first period over. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You can get minus 124 that over 1.5 in the first period here with the Sabres and Habs.
All right. I'll go full game over with the Sabres and the Habs. Buffalo, Montreal, over 6, minus 120. Again, I like the full game, too, in these elimination games because when you bet full game, I like both first period and full game, but with the full game, you got the empty net possibly in play. So either way, I think, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've seen minimum 6 goals in all but one game in this series. So Buffalo, Montreal over 6, minus 120 for my best bet here for Game 6, Sabres and Habs. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Again, we're not on this tomorrow with you. No show Sunday. We'll be on either Monday or Tuesday, depending on what happens tonight. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you next time, whenever that may be, right here on the Ice Guys.